Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are going to place you right in the center of the chaos.
Right in the thick of it.
Exactly. Picture this scenario. It's a classic, happens every single night shift. You are carefully prescribing a critical medication, let's say insulin, a high-risk drug. It needs your full attention.
Total focus.
And just as you're about to click confirm, the phone rings. It's a complicated results query. At the same time, a relative comes up to you demanding to know why their breakfast order was late.
Of course.
And to top it all off, your bleep goes, a deteriorating patient in Bay 3, new WS2 of 6, everything at once. So what do you do first?
And that feeling, that immediate, absolute overwhelm, is precisely what the sources we've looked at today are designed to tackle.
It's a common feeling.
It is.
Yeah.
And this isn't about just making a gut decision. It's about having a system ready to go. Our mission today is to move beyond that panicked ad hoc juggling.
Which feels heroic at the time.
It does. But it's actually dangerous.
Yeah.
Instead, we need to apply structured, GMC-aligned frameworks for managing all these demands at once, and these come straight from UK medical training materials.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Because the central takeaway, the thing that scores the highest and, actually keeps people safe, is that reliability comes from structure and visibility.
Yes.
Not from speed or to just being brilliant under pressure. We're basically replacing chaos with an operating system.
That's a great way to put it. It boils down to a systematic approach that the GMC would recognize as safe. You have a triage first, then assign ownership, protect your focus for the risky stuff, batch the low-value work, and this is key, escalate early, before things go wrong.
That systematic approach, it sounds like the total opposite of how most of us actually work when we're under pressure. I mean, my first instinct is to grab a scrap of paper or just keep a mental list. But the source material is really clear on this. It demands a big shift. Stop using multiple private lists. I have to ask, why is a single visible list so crucial if it feels like it takes extra time to log everything?
And that is the exact friction point, isn't it? It separates a safe clinician from a risky one. The thing is, private lists are where tasks go to die.
Or get done wrong.
Or get done wrong, exactly. The danger of hidden work, of lost tasks, is just built into keeping things in your head or on a bit of paper. I mean, think about it. If you get pulled away to a cardiac arrest, what happens to that load?
It's gone. Nobody knows what was on it.
Nobody knows. The next person starts from zero, and you've just introduced a massive invisible risk into the system.
So that's the visibility piece. If I can't see the cue, I can't manage the risk.
Precisely. So the core principle here, the thing we have to adopt, is the single intake list. Every single input, bleeps, calls, results, relatives, even a mental note you make to yourself, it has to land on this one visible board first.
It gets the risk out of your head.
It gets it out of your head and onto a shared auditable platform.
Okay, so everything becomes transparent and accountable, but how do we stop that single list from just becoming a long, depressing scroll of jobs? We need a way to sort it.
Absolutely. Transparency isn't enough on its own. You need structure. And for that, we use the central framework for managing the queue, and this is something that's tested all the time in scenarios. ODT.
ODT.
This framework forces you to apply that structure, that triage, to every single task as it comes in.
Okay, ODT. What does that actually stand for, and what problem does each letter solve?
So ODT is owner, deadline, and threshold. These three bits of information transform a simple to-do list into a properly triaged, risk-managed workflow.
Let's break those down then. Why owner first?
Owner is critical. It's about accountability. Who is doing this task? It immediately stops two people wasting time on the same job.
Or worse, nobody doing it.
Or nobody doing it because everyone thinks someone else has it. It just removes all that ambiguity.
Okay, and deadline? That seems obvious, but what's the danger if we skip putting a specific time on it?
The deadline sets the urgency. And this is vital for time-sensitive things. We're not talking about sometime this afternoon we need a hard stop, 11:15 a.m. Without a deadline, things like urgent scans or overdue antibiotics.
Where time equals tissue.
Exactly. They just slip silently into the backlog.
Yeah.
And that has serious consequences.
And finally, threshold. This sounds like the safety net.
It is the single most important life-saving part of this. The threshold is the trigger for escalation. It's the point where a task goes from manageable to unsafe if it's not acted on.
So like a NIN-WS2 score of 5 or more.
An NIN-WS2 of 5, a critical lab result coming back. It's the boundary that, once it's crossed, means that task has to jump the queue no matter what its original deadline was.
So to put it into practice, when that nurse calls with a non-urgent query, instead of it distracting me, I just triage it on the spot using ODT.
Yes. You model the phrase clearly. Thanks for the call. We'll log that on the board. Owner is Priya, deadline is 11.5 here, and the threshold is if the patient becomes symptomatic.
Right.
You've logged it, assigned it, set a safety boundary, and documented it, all in about 10 seconds. That tiny bit of structure saves lives.
So we have the structure, the ODT queue is up and running, but building it is one thing. How do we actually execute the plan without getting derailed? This brings us to shielding high-risk work and grouping low-risk work. Let's start with shielding creating focus windows.
This is a direct response to a basic cognitive fact. Interruptions cause errors, especially during critical steps. You have to proactively protect your high-risk work.
And what sort of tasks are we talking about here? What needs that protection?
The sources are clear on this. It's tasks where a mistake causes immediate high-consequence harm. So prescribing high-risk drugs, insulin, warfarin, securing informed consent for a major procedure, or doing something time-critical like defibrillation.
Why are interruptions so dangerous? It feels like I can multitask.
Well, the evidence shows you can't. Not really. When your brain switches tasks, even for a split second, to hear a bleep, your working memory for the original task gets partly wiped.
And that leads to mistakes.
It leads to omission errors.
Yeah.
You forget a step. You forget to check the allergy status or sign the form or double-check the dose.
So what's the rule then? If I am interrupted while I'm prescribing that insulin dose?
If your train of thought is truly broken, you have to restart the critical step.
From the beginning.
From the very beginning. Recheck the calculation, reread the prescription. But before that, you try to deflect the non-urgent stuff. You declare a short focus window to the team.
What would that sound like? What's the model phrase?
Something clear and assertive. I'm prescribing a high-risk drug now. Can you hold non-urgent bleeps for 5 minutes? If it's urgent, SBR me the details and state the new WS score immediately.
So you're setting expectations.
You are. And you're giving them the info to judge if it's a real emergency. The time you lose by restarting is always less than the risk of making a catastrophic error.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's flip to the other side of the coin. Efficiency. And that means batching.
Right. Batching is the antidote to that reactive instant answer reflex that leaves us all exhausted and fragmented.
So grouping similar low-value tasks together.
Exactly. All those results calls, chasing referrals, doing discharge letters, you group them and allocate a specific timed sprint to just clear them all at once.
It sounds much more efficient.
It is, because you're not context switching all the time. But, and this is the crucial rule, you never, ever batch at the expense of an unstable patient or time-critical therapy. Batching is strictly for tasks below that clinical threshold.
The moment it hits the threshold, it jumps the queue.
It jumps the queue and gets your immediate single-task focus.
Okay, but even with the best system, there will be times when demand just outstrips your capacity. And the sources really stress that this system is only as safe as its boundaries. We need to know when to pull the emergency cord, when is escalation mandatory.
This is a huge measure of competence. Knowing your specific escalation thresholds and red flags that mean you have to get team support now.
And the goal is to call for help when you're still managing, not when you're already drowning.
Exactly. Call for help when you're safe, not when you're sinking.
So what are those high-risk triggers? What signals that the system is failing?
The sources are very clear. You must escalate if you have 2 or more deteriorating patients at the same time. That immediately breaches your capacity.
Okay.
Other red flags are a backlog that's breaching your ODT thresholds, so overdue antibiotics sitting on the board, or a NUWS2 call that's been waiting too long.
What about just the feeling of being overwhelmed, the cognitive load?
That's a trigger too. If you're finding your critical steps are being repeatedly interrupted, or if that single queue is just growing and growing without clear owners or times, that means the structure is collapsing. Patient safety is actively at risk.
And this is where the exam sources say people consistently go wrong. What's the high-scoring action versus the tempting trap?
The high-scoring action, the GMC-aligned one, is always escalate before slippage harms safety. You're proactive.
Right.
The common trap is delay escalation to avoid bothering seniors. That loses marks every time because you are knowingly working beyond your limits and compromising care.
So it's about communicating the risk clearly, not just saying, I'm busy.
Precisely. You're presenting an auditable problem. A model phrase would be something like, our ODT queue exceeds safe thresholds. I've escalated to the registrar and the site team. I'm documenting the waiting tasks and our agreed regroup time.
That shows clear action, documentation, and a plan for continuity.
Exactly.
Right, let's get into those low-scoring actions. The trap answers that are designed to catch people out. They often feel faster, but they're dangerous.
We need to understand why they lose marks.
Mhm.
First up, keep 3 private lists and juggle. We've covered this, but it's unsafe because it hides work, loses tasks, and makes handover a nightmare. You're hiding risk.
And the urge to be instantly available for everyone.
That's the next one. Answer every interruption instantly. It just completely violates the principle of triage. It lets low-value tasks derail critical work. It's the definition of fragmented, error-prone care.
Okay, another big one, especially in the middle of a busy shift. Work faster, document later.
A classic trap, but it breaks continuity. That ODT board is your safety net. If you don't document the triage and who's doing what, the next person on shift is flying blind. Documentation is part of the work, not an add-on.
And finally, delegation. Something like, ask the healthcare assistant to answer complex clinical questions unsupervised.
A clear delegation outside their scope of practice. You're risking unsafe advice being given, which is a massive breach of your professional duties. Delegation has to be appropriate.
This all brings us back with a much clearer framework now to that opening dilemma. Let's apply this. You're prescribing insulin, phone rings, relative approaches, bleep for nude WS2 of 6. Walk me through the highest scoring action.
Okay, so we've got 3 new inputs while we're in the middle of a high-risk action.
Step 1. What's the highest risk? Right here, right now.
The insulin prescription you're in the middle of. You must protect the focus window. You cannot stop. You shield that task until the critical part, the calculation, the signing is done. Everything else waits for a few seconds.
Okay, insulin is safely done. Step 2, we have a phone, a relative, and a deteriorating patient.
We triage. The EWS2 of 6 immediately crosses our clinical threshold. That demands immediate action. So you must attend or assign the EWS26 patient immediately. That is your top clinical priority.
And what about the phone call and the relative? How does ODT handle those?
You log both on the single queue with ODT. You don't ignore them, you capture them. The phone query gets an owner, a deadline after the new WS2 patient, and a threshold. The relative query gets an owner, maybe the ward clerk, a deadline, and a threshold.
So you protect your immediate action, but you don't lose the other tasks.
Exactly. You place them into the system for controlled follow-up.
And why does that approach score higher than, say, asking the HCA to check on the new WS26 patient while you finish the other things?
Because it addresses every part of safety in the right order. 1. Protect the high-risk step. 2. Prioritize the highest clinical risk with direct, immediate action. And 3. Log all other inputs so nothing gets lost. It beats ad hoc juggling every single time because it maintains integrity throughout the whole crisis.
Right.
And if we just connect this back to the GMC for a moment, this whole system is really about proving you're prioritizing patient safety, working within your limits, and keeping clear records.
Right.
It moves you from just reacting to actually controlling the clinical environment.
It reframes all this structure as a safety tool, not just bureaucracy. And to help everyone remember this under pressure, the source material gives us a simple mnemonic, cue me.
QME is a fantastic little memory aid for the whole process, yeah.
So let's just map the letters quickly. Q is for establishing that single list.
Urgency is for triaging every input with ODT.
Escalation is knowing your thresholds for calling for help.
Uninterrupted means you protect those focus windows.
Execute is batching the low-value work. And finally, make records and escalate.
You've got it. It covers all the high-yield actions.
So what does this all mean for your next shift? Well, the power in managing all these competing demands, it lies in having a visible plan. It's in the ODT framework and in religiously protecting those focus windows. It's structure, not speed. That's your safety mechanism.
And here's the final thought, something that really elevates your practice. If your team's capacity is exceeded and that queue is backing up, you must document not just that you escalated, but also a snapshot of the queue at that moment.
What's on the list?
What's on the list and the agreed regroup time. This turns a moment of chaos into an auditable, safe plan for handover. You're not just surviving the shift, you're setting the next team up for success.
That ensures continuity and accountability, which is exactly what the GMC wants to see, a fantastic framework. We'd encourage you to start applying ODT in your own daily planning. That's all for this deep dive.